Kids are our precious assets, yet they can also be incredibly challenging to handle. If you, like me, struggle with managing your kids' tantrums, meltdowns, hitting and shouting, then join me today. In this episode, we're going to explore how we can develop our kids' brains to help them remain calm in the face of setbacks, sparing us from their emotional outburst. Welcome to A Book with Bubble Tea. With your host, Mira He. Here, I share takeaways from East Asian books on parenting, startups, and self-growth. Seeking insights beyond the typical English shelf? Want to be a better parent and achieve more in life? You are in the right place. Grab your bubble tea and let's dive in. Welcome to A Book with Bubble Tea. I'm your host, Mira He. How's everyone doing? Today's book is about parenting. It's about helping us as parents to manage our kids' emotions. But what's unique about this episode is that this is our first time. I'm actually going to introduce a book written by native English-speaking authors. This is totally new for me. As you know, our channel is actually dedicated to introduce quality East Asian books to you all, right? However, this issue concerning kids' emotions has been troubling me so much. I can't even explain it. I feel like I'm being tortured by it every single day. My son would have tantrums or some form of emotional meltdown daily. It could be in the morning when I try to wake him up or, remind him, to tidy up his toys. We're getting ready for soccer. We're just helping with his homework. No one shouted at him or anything, but he would just blow up, and start shouting, crying, or say the most hurtful things to us, like, you are mean. No one likes me. I'm going to leave this house. Everyone just loves Hannah, like his little sister. And the degree of his emotional swings is drastic. He could change from an angel to a devil in seconds. I really don't know how to make sense of this. Is my 6.5-year-old son in a stage of rebellion now? Or is there some trauma somewhere? Or has he just found a powerful weapon to torture his mom with? Honestly, if I could, I really wouldn't want to hang around with anyone like that. But too bad. He's my son. I can't shut him out of my life. I need to find a way to deal with it and to love him, of course. And because of this, I began my quest to find a way to handle my son's outburst of emotions, which led me to today's book, the Whole-Brain Child Workbook, subtitled Practical Exercises, Worksheets, and Activities to Nurture Developing Minds, co-authored by Dr. J Siegel, who is a UCLA clinical professor of psychiatry with practice over children, adolescents, adults, couples, and families, and Dr. Payne Bryson, who is a psychotherapist at Pediatric and Adolescent Psychology Association in Arcadia, California, seeing children and adults and offering parenting consultation. So this book is written by two solid academics, educators, and practiced psychotherapists. The one I am reviewing is the workbook. You can consider it as a sequel to the original Whole-Brain Child, which is a New York Times bestseller with over 1 million copies sold. These two books actually talk about the same topic, but I found the workbook slightly briefer and with more exercise to practice, so I thought it would be more practical and useful for me. Okay, now let's talk about the objective of the book. The main objective of this book is very straightforward, to help parents so that we can help our kids develop their brains in a way that allows different parts of their brains to be fully integrated. So integration is the key word here. Since each part performs distinctive functions, we need them to work together for our kids to function at their best. And whenever they face any setbacks, their whole brain can work together in a coordinated way so that our kids will be neither too rigid nor too chaotic, knowing that they will be able to just get through all these troubles. They will be in the river of well-being, in the author's words. The authors identify 4 types of integrations that are necessary for our kids to be their utmost selves. These are, first, the integration of the left and right brain. Second, the integration of the downstairs brain and upstairs brain. And third, the integration between explicit and implicit memory. And last but not least, the integration between me and others. In today's episode, I'm going to cover these 4 types of integration with one parenting hack for each type to help us apply them in our day-to-day life. The authors wrote in the book that they understand perfectly parenting is not easy. Oh, yes. And most of the time, we are just surviving. Oh, definitely, yes. However, they hope that with some strategies revealed in the book, parents can turn each surviving situation into a thriving opportunity for our kids. Clearly, that's what I need so badly. So if you're also a desperate parent like me, being mentally tortured by our kids, then listen in. We are on this journey together. All right, let's get started. First, the left and right brain integration. When we discuss different parts of the brain, the most obvious distinction is between the left and right hemispheres. We know that our left hemisphere is more logical, linguistic, literal, and linear, whereas the right hemisphere is quite the opposite. Non-linear, non-verbal, senses emotions and information from our bodies instead of our words, and can put things into context and see the whole picture better. I think no one will argue against the idea that it's best for our kids to develop both hemispheres of their brains, since they serve very different functions. However, in reality, we often see one hemisphere dominating the other. If our kids tend to be more dominated by their right brain, then they might be overwhelmed by their emotions and not know how to combine it with the logic of the left brain to get perspective and, handle their emotions positively. Conversely, if their left brain dominates, then they might deny their emotions and become too rigid. The author actually shares a funny story where a friend of theirs, Tina, ordered a birthday cake from the local bakery for her son, JP. And this birthday cake is not like birthday cake baked on one cake, but it's combined with multiple cupcakes with frosting on top to make it look like one big cake. So Tina requested a cake to be made of many small cupcakes arranged to look like one big cake, and she asked the baker to write her son's name, JP, on the cupcakes. Imagine the surprise when Tina found the baker, instead of writing her son's name, JP, the baker actually wrote literally the entire sentence, JP on the cupcakes, on the cake. This illustrates how a literal left brain interpretation can lead to amusing outcomes. So how do we help our kids integrate the left and the right brain, the logic and emotion? The strategy is to connect with the right and then direct with the left whenever they experience some overwhelming emotions. And this order is very crucial here. Because when our kids are overwhelmed with emotions, logic just won't work. Many parents, myself included, jumped into logic mode too early. We try to reason with them before first, try to connect with their right brain's emotions. But it's not just about what we say that matters. Our nonverbal cues might matter even more. Are we making proper eye contact with them? What's your tone of voice? What's our facial expressions? Are we offering physical comfort or showing empathy? The key is not so much what we say or do, but making them feel that, they are being understood. Once they feel understood, they become more receptive to logical discussions, solutions, and plans, then it's the right time for us to start directing them. Okay, now moving on to the second integration needed is between our downstairs brain and upstairs brain. This distinction is obviously metaphorical, referring to the more primitive brain functions versus more sophisticated cognitive processes. Our primitive, aka the downstairs brain, deals with basic needs and instincts like fear and anger, often acting before thinking. The sophisticated, aka the upstairs brain, encompasses the characteristics and behaviors we hope our kids will develop, such as sound decision-making and emotional balance. When kids throw tantrums or having meltdowns, it's a sign their downstairs brain is in control. The authors suggest a method called engage, don't enrage. It's somewhat like an advanced version of connect and direct, but this time we try to direct with questions that encourage our kids to use their upstairs brain again. For example, instead of scolding a child for saying, "I hate you," acknowledge their feelings. "Wow, you are really mad." And then, follow up with some factual questions to encourage them to think again, thereby engaging their upstairs brain. You can ask questions like, "You are so mad, is it because I didn't buy you that necklace that you want?" Once you see your kids start to think and start to having a conversation with you, then you know that they are becoming more engaged with their upstairs brain. You can then reason with them better. Personally, I call the downstairs brain really the crocodile brain, and the upstairs brain Homo sapiens brain. Crocodile brain is what we were born with concerning our survivals and instincts. The Homo sapiens brain, on the other hand, it's about what we have learned, what we have developed, what we have grown up with, cognitive ability. But the sad thing is, the Homo sapiens brain takes time to develop. It only matures around mid-20s, so I clearly have a long way to go. And another important note from the author here is that we, as parents, also need to watch out our downstairs brain. Often we get too wound up by our kids' emotional outburst that we end up shouting back at them and start to have our own emotional meltdown too. This is not a good idea. The author advises to develop our own way that we can stay calm even when we feel our kids' emotions are almost going to overwhelm us. Well, they suggested, to remember what's our most relaxed position, most relaxed gesture, or simply just count to 10, whatever it works. Additionally, it's also a very good idea to actually train our kids' upstairs brain muscle in good days when they are not upset, when they are emotionally stable, so that they can become more aware of it and then more used to it. Some of the good things to train them with are like, how to make sound decisions, how to control their body and emotions, etc. This is like doing the fire drill so that we can do better when there is a real fire. Now moving on to the third integration between the explicit memory and the implicit memory. Usually when we talk about memory, we are referring to the explicit memories. These are the memories of which we are aware of, such as remembering your last holiday or when your kids took their first steps. However, there's another type of memory known as implicit memory. These are the memories we are not aware of. Often, they are painful memories that our brains try to hide away from our consciousness to prevent us from dwelling on the pain. But being unaware of their existence doesn't mean they don't influence us. Our implicit memories actually continue to shape our perceptions, behaviors, and decision-making, but this time at the background without us even knowing them. This is like the master form of manipulation. And as parents, it's our duty to help our children become more aware of their implicit memories by servicing them so that we can help to manage them and control them. So to make these implicit memories more explicit Because only by knowing their existence and understanding their impact can we help our children control and manage these memories. The author shares a story of a 6-year-old girl called Olivia who exhibited fear towards parking meters and urged her caregivers to avoid them. Fortunately, her mother was familiar with the concept of implicit memory. She engaged in a discovery process with her daughter and uncovered that Olivia's fear stemmed from an incident where her babysitter's car was towed from a supermarket parking lot. Olivia was worried about not being able to return home to see her mom and losing her toys, which are stuck in the car. And the babysitter's distress and the subsequent involvement of the police led Olivia to unconsciously conclude that parking meters are dangerous and could result in their car being towed as well. By recognizing Olivia's implicit memory and the unconscious emotions tied to it, her mother was able to better manage her fear and help her understand that it wasn't the parking meter that she was afraid of, and what's happened in the past, it's in the past. Helping our children make sense of their past experiences enables them to better understand their present, giving them greater control over their current behavior and feelings. It is important to remember that, what we might consider as trivial, like a parking meter, can be significant in the eyes of our children. However, not every single instance of a child refusing to do something is due to implicit memories. Often, they might simply just be hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Nonetheless, if you do notice a specific pattern with a clear trigger and response, such as avoidance, fear, or regression, it might be worthwhile to explore whether an implicit memory is at play. The author suggests several methods for addressing this, such as playing the memory Candyland game or creating a memory board together with your kids. These activities can encourage children to talk about their stories and then help us to kind of piece them together to understand what's hidden at the background of their brain. And the last integration is between me and we. It's natural for young children to be self-centered. I think all parents can testify that. Kids only focus on themselves. But as parents, our role is actually to guide them in expanding their perspectives from just themselves to include their connections with family, friends, community, and the wider world. This type of integration is known as the interpersonal integration. This enables the me, i.e. myself, or themselves, to find meaning and happiness by joining and belonging to a we, a community. This reminds me of our last week's book, The Courage to be Disliked, because in Adlerian psychology, the way to real happiness is to gain the subjective, understanding that I am making a contribution to the community. So this really highlights the importance of this integration between me and we, because it's going to have a lasting impact on our children's future happiness. To begin, it's crucial for us as parents to observe our children and understand which relational muscles they need to strengthen the most. Is it thinking more about others? Or, they need to develop a stronger sense of self? Do they tend to sacrifice themselves too much for others? Or are they too assertive in their views? Knowing our kids is the first step towards helping them. After identifying our children's needs, we can then review the people we are close with and intentionally surround our children with individuals who will reinforce certain behaviors or mindsets. For example, I really appreciate one of my son's piano teachers, although I'm not sure if he learns much from the teacher, since I feel most of the time I'm the one who do most of the work with my son in the evening. But the teacher's positive attitude towards my son's behavior is invaluable. If my son acts goofy or misbehaves, in my opinion, the teacher actually laughs and say, "Oh, Joshua, you're so funny. I wish I could live with you." Or he would say, "Oh, Joshua, you remind me of myself as a kid." This kind of appreciation is crucial for my son, especially since, I know I'm more critical about him and his performance. So I'm really, really thankful to the teacher who, can give this warm attitude and appreciation towards my son. Another strategy is teaching our children to connect through conflict. Helping them to see other people's perspectives can be powerful. I particularly like the parenting hack of having kids make a mask of someone they don't like, which could even be me at the moment, to be honest. We can print out a picture of that person, cut out the eyes to create a mask, and then engage in role play with our kids, letting our kids assume the role of the person they're in conflict with, and us taking on the role of our children. By doing so, we can have a conversation about what happened, what might be the reason why I say such thing, and this way will help uncover the underlying thoughts of those they've had conflicts with. And wearing the mask of another person is actually very funny if you think about it. It's also a good way to have some fun time together with our kids, and usually having a fun moment loosen up everybody, right? Okay, now we are on the conclusion. This book is wonderful, informative, and easy to read. I feel like I have learned a lot from it. I would strongly recommend everyone to pick it up. It even includes cartoon illustrations, so I'm considering printing them out and to use as coloring sheets with my kids. I think that will be a great way for them to also learn something about their brains. Of all the points, the one that made me think the most is about implicit memory. In the past 2 months, whenever I told my son off, even gently, he would throw a tantrum and immediately conclude that no one loves him and I don't love him. I tried comforting him, assuring him, and reasoning with him, but nothing worked. It frustrated me so much that, I even shouted at him once and accused him of trying to manipulate me and stormed out of the door. I think that's exactly why I ended up picking this book, to be honest. And now I only thought about it, thanks to my implicit memory. But now reading about this implicit memory thing, I wonder if it's related to an insecurity he felt when his sister was born, when my son was about 2.5 years old. And we also relocated from Abu Dhabi to Saudi Arabia 6 months later. Back then, he showed signs of stress like potty training regression and deformed toenails, which a doctor said were purely trauma and stress related. My husband obviously laughed at me when I told him about it yesterday, but a small thing can be a big deal to kids, right? Like the parking meters was to Olivia in the previous example. Especially since my son has a severe allergy, perhaps he's more sensitive than others about love. Maybe, subconsciously, it's his survival strategy, who knows? That said, despite all the wonderful tips and strategies the book shares, my struggles still lie in the implementation. My son hardly articulates his thoughts. He doesn't even share with me like anything, no matter how I ask. Usually, he either ignores my questions, or he runs away, or he just said, "I don't know." This is husband quality from young age, right? Moreover, I find it very hard to implement these methods when facing time pressure. For example, what should I do when my son decides to throw a tantrum while we're running late for his bus? Or, I am pressured by a deadline at work. Or something that we have to address to immediately. And also, it's very difficult to deal with these emotional situations, like to spend time comforting him, to spend time engaging with his emotion, while I have to keep an eye on the other kid, my daughter. I do see the tremendous benefits of helping our kids to integrate these 4 parts of their brains well. I just don't know how to do it when limited by time, by work demands, and my capacity as a parent to look after 2 kids at the same time. How do you guys do it? How does everyone else cope with it? I really want to know. And to conclude this episode, I want to share my favorite quote from the book. It's a perfect reminder for a parent like me, who is often too goal-oriented, eager to get things done, and can be a bit emotionally detached. The author says, and this is a quote, "It's important to remember that often in those difficult moments, our child is not simply giving us a hard time. Rather, she's having a hard time and needs our help to integrate her brain." End quote. All right, that's a wrap for today. If you like it, please do subscribe to our podcast or even our YouTube channel. I would love to learn and grow together with you. And don't forget to tune in again on Friday for East Asia This Week. We'll bring you something new about East Asia. All right, let's enjoy our bubble tea for now. Until next episode, bye-bye.